Okay, we're going to learn how to do anonymous functions in Imba. I've written an example of a JavaScript anonymous function here in a comment. And so how do we write this same thing in Imba? Well, we can write it with the do keyword that starts an anonymous function. And then if I just put the string hello, that's what gets returned. And that's actually the equivalent anonymous function. Let's assign it to a variable. And there you go. You have the exact same thing. Now we may want to put a parameter here like name, and then concatenate that so that we get a greeting hello name. To do the same thing in Imba, we can put parentheses after the do keyword, put the name there, and I could interpolate it like that. So let's try it out. Console.log, greeting, Nathan, hello Nathan, cool. Now a common situation where you need to use an anonymous function is for a callback function. So to do an example, I put an array of names here in a variable called names. And let's do this. We'll say names.map greeting. So the map function takes a callback, which means it takes a function as an argument. And it's going to pass each item of this names array into this callback function and make a new array out of the results. This is a built-in JavaScript function, just making use of it because it uses a callback. Okay, so let's log the result of that. Console.log names.map. We get hello Nathan, hello Donna. Now we might want to put this function right in line instead of defining it as a variable. So let me just cut that out and I'll paste it in here right in line. We get the same result. And a cool thing you can do in Imba is you can actually have the callback trailing the call to the function. So after that last parameter, you can have your callback. And what Imba will do is it'll insert it as the last parameter. So actually, if you had other parameters to the map function, which map function just needs the one callback, but let's say that this was a function with other parameters, Imba would insert the callback as the last parameter. But because map has no other parameters needed, we can just delete all of that, including the parentheses, and have the callback trailing like this. And we can break this onto multiple lines, and we could write, a more lengthy function body here if we wanted. Another commonly used JavaScript function that takes a callback is set timeout. So the set timeout function first takes a callback as its first parameter, followed by the number of milliseconds to wait before calling that callback. So let's try defining a callback right here. I'm going to say do console.log hello. Now Imba gets a little confused here about whether this comma is part of the callback's function body or not. So we'd have to wrap this in parentheses to do it this way. And now it'll work. You can see when I hit reload, wait 1 second, and there's the message. And if we wanted to break this onto multiple lines, as we often do because our function bodies are often more than one line, you could do it like this. But this is starting to look ugly. This is like the kind of thing we're trying to avoid by using Imba. This looks more like JavaScript code with all these extra parentheses down here. It would be so much nicer if set timeout used the second parameter as the callback, because then we'd be able to write that trailing callback like this, and this would look so much nicer. Well, Imba's got us covered in this situation. What it does by default is take the callback and insert it as the last parameter. But in set timeout, we need it to be the first parameter. So there's a special symbol you can use if you type an ampersand as the first parameter, or whichever parameter you need it to be. It will insert the callback in place of the ampersand. So now it'll take this callback, insert it here as the first parameter. There's our hello. We get the same result, but this much nicer syntax. So that's a great example of some very clean, nice Imba syntax. When you're working with APIs that involve callbacks, you get to enjoy these nice trailing callbacks that make your code nice and readable.